It's been a while, but I'm back. The big scientist took a little hiatus. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend to some family medical issues, and now that everyone is blessed with a clean bill of health, it's time to get back to baking. And just like me, my sourdough starter has also been away in the back of the fridge, taking an extended nap. But right now, it's time to wake it up. As you can see, a dark liquid has formed on the surface of the starter, and this is 100% normal as long as it's a dark grayish brown color or clear. If you see anything that looks pink, green, or has any fuzzies in it, then please make sure to throw that away as at this point that's spoiled. This liquid that you see on top is called hooch, and it has like an alcoholy kind of vinegary scent sometimes, and it's produced by the microbes that are in your starter. So just because the starter's in the fridge doesn't mean it stopped being active. The microbes continue to be active. They don't go dormant just because they're in the fridge. They just kind of slow down, and so they continue to eat what food was available to them in the jar and produce their byproduct waste, which is alcohol, and that's what you see sitting on top. So when you open the jar, you'll definitely smell that alcoholy smell, and this just means that your starter is hungry because it's run out of food. So now that means it's time to wake it up. So the first thing we're going to do to wake up our starter is to either stir in that hooch back into the starter or we're going to pour it off. I decided to stir it in. It doesn't matter either way. So after you stir that into your starter, what you're going to do is you're going to do a 1-to-1-to-1 feeding. So that means the same amount of starter, the same amount of water, and the same amount of flour. So I'm using 25 grams of starter, 25 grams of water, and 25 grams of flour. And you want to add this to a clean jar. The reason I'm using 25 grams, such a small amount, is because I want to wake up the starter quicker. And for me, I find that when you use smaller amounts, it gives the starter less to work with, so it gets through it quicker and it activates a little bit quicker. So that's what I like to use, but you can definitely use whatever you want. Just make sure you're doing 1-to-1-to-1. And this just it helps the starter wake up a little bit easier. After you've done that 1-to-1-to-1 feeding, what you want to do is you want to let that jar sit on the counter for about a day, and you most likely won't see very many bubbles, if any, in it. That doesn't mean that your starter's dead. It just means it needs more time to wake up. So you want to continue this 1-to-1-to-1 feeding until you start seeing some activity with your starter. Please have patience because it's been sleeping for quite a while, so it's going to take it a minute to wake up. So just keep that in mind. And one thing I do like to do when I'm doing these 1-to-1-to-1 feedings, especially when it gets to the second or third feeding, I like to take the discard. So since I'm only using 25 grams of starter for each new jar, I like to take the discard and add it back to my original jar that's in the fridge, and then stir that in and stick it back in the fridge. This not only reduces waste of throwing out the discard or trying to find something to do with it when it's not that active, it also gives the starter that's in the fridge, that my main starter, it gives it something to eat while it's sitting in the fridge. So it's less likely to, well, it's giving it more time before it starts creating more hooch. So for me, I feel it's just less wasteful, and I'm also giving back to my starter in the fridge and keeping it healthy. So now once you start seeing that activity in your starter, like mine took about 3 feedings to get to this activity level, that's when you want to go ahead and do what I call the big feed. And the big feed is what allows you to then use the starter in recipes. So we obviously can't utilize just 25 grams of starter in a recipe. That's not going to be enough, especially making bread or things like that. So you want to make sure you have enough starter to make your baked goods, and so you want to use a different ratio. So once your starter starts looking all nice and bubbly and it looks active, then you want to just scoop all of that starter out into a new larger vessel. You definitely want to make sure it's larger because you're going to be creating more volume, so you can bake with it. So you want to scoop all of that out into a larger vessel, weigh it however much, or measure it if you're using a measuring spoon. But I like to use weight because it's much easier to calculate. So you want to weigh it, and whatever amount that is, you want to multiply that by 2 to 4, just depending on how much you need for your recipe. I decided to go with 4 times the amount that of starter that was available, and that was just because I was making a few different things. But so you multiply whatever that number is by between 2 and 4, and then you add that much water and flour. So I multiplied mine by 4, and then I added that amount of flour and water to it. mixed it up, and then let it sit on the counter. So this big feed actually will go a lot quicker than these small feeds have gone because now it's awake. So now it just is hungry. So it's gonna eat through everything pretty quickly and get very active, very bubbly, and nice and fluffy for us to use in a recipe. So really, mine took probably about 10 hours, but it could take up to 12 hours to really reach its full height of activity. And so that's when you want to go ahead and start using it in your recipes and utilizing it for all your different baking adventures. So now that you know how to wake up your starter, send this wake up call to your starter. And until next time, happy baking.